And what those experiments will show, if they turn out the way that I predict them, it'll show clearly, one, that this is a virtual reality. I thought I understood the larger consciousness system. I thought I understood that it was primary. So I write these books about consciousness, a theory of consciousness, and about a year or two after they were published, I realized that the same logic that explained consciousness also would explain the mysteries in physics. I'm a physicist. I should have picked that up earlier, but it was about 2 years after they were published, and I realized that I could explain quantum mechanics, why particles were probability distributions.
Right.
Whereas physicists can't explain that. They have no idea. They just start with that assumption and go from there, but they don't know why, that assumption should be true. And then I looked at relativity, because quantum mechanics and relativity are like the two big things in physics. Those two cover everything else. So I looked at relativity, and the big mystery there was, why is c, the speed of light, a constant? Again, they start with that as an assumption, but don't have any idea why that ought to be true. And I could solve both of those mysteries, why particles are best described as probability distributions and why the speed of light's constant. It was just simple. It fell right out of the same logic that was creating my consciousness theory. So then I started looking at the other paradoxes in physics.
Right.
There's lots of paradoxes in physics, things that we know work like that, but we don't know why, like tunneling, like a Zeno effect. Where did the Big Bang come from? Why did that little ball of plasma just suddenly appear there and then turn into our universe? You see?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. So there's all of these paradoxes in physics, probably about a dozen or so of them that have been kind of around for a century, that nobody really has a clue why things are like that. And the theory of consciousness explained all of them. So it's better science as well as better metaphysics. And so then I wrote some experiments, quantum mechanics experiments, that would verify what it is I was saying. And I have these experiments. There's 6 experiments actually, but each one has sub-experiments. So it's like experiment 1 and 1A and 1B and 1C and so on. But there's 6 primary experiments. And I published those in 2016 in a talk I gave in Los Angeles. And all of this is on YouTube, by the way. So if you want to look at those experiments, they're all at MBTLA 2016. That's, I think, the name of the video on YouTube, if anybody'd like to look at them. So then now I'm trying to find people to do the experiments. Yeah. And I'm working on that. I'm going to have a Kickstart thing go off in about a month to help fund them, because money talks everywhere, including universities. Yeah. Scientists have their own things they're doing. They have their grants, and they can't work with that grant money doing anything other than what their grant was about. And so everybody's busy, but if you have enough money to add to the pie, then somehow people find time to work on your project rather than the one that they're working on. Right. So we're trying to raise a little money to convince scientists to do those experiments. And what those experiments will show, if they turn out the way that I predict them, it'll show clearly, one, that this is a virtual reality and not a basically mass, matter, time, charge sort of thing. It's not that. It's virtual. It still has time in it. Time is fundamental. But anyway, it'll show that this is a virtual reality. That means a computed reality. That our reality is based on information. That's the same thing as saying a virtual reality. And it will also demonstrate that consciousness is the computer.
Right, okay.
So it'll do both of those. Now, it'll be very strong evidence about this being a virtual reality, and it'll be less strong, but still good evidence that consciousness is the computer.